Yo, what's up guys? Welcome back to another video. I know it's been a long time, but we're back. We've been extremely busy, but this week it seems like it's going to be a big week. At the time of this being released, the Spider-Man trailer is probably coming out. The time of it being recorded, it's coming out in a couple of days. But yeah, today, this video was a little bit attached to the Spider-Man trailer, but not really. I'm excited for Born Again Season 2. In preparation for this, we're going to be talking about Season 1. Specifically, how criminally underrated I think Born Again Season 1 was, and how I just think it's just as peak as the original show, in my opinion. Okay, so we're going to go through each episode and kind of break down the story of it and why I just think some things are going over people's head. Okay, episode 1, Heaven's Half Hour. We pick things up years after the original show. Things seem to be going really well for Matt, Foggy, and Karen. As a fan of the original show, this is really beautiful and nice to see, but unfortunately, as the episode title suggests, this quote-unquote heaven only lasts for around half an hour. An old foe returns to the trio's life, and he's entirely set on revenge. It's Benjamin Poindexter, aka Bullseye. He attacks Josie's bar. This forces Matt to shoot up his Daredevil in order to try protecting the innocent. Daredevil and Bullseye have an epic fight sequence throughout the bar, and it kicks the season off with a bang, and it really shows us how phenomenal the show could be with Disney's level of budget. I mean, the show's already phenomenal, one of my favorite shows of all time. It might actually be, but with the higher budget, that can only get better, you know? That raises the ceiling. The epic fight culminates in Foggy's death and Matt attempting to kill Bullseye by throwing him off the roof of Josie's bar. We pick up a year later. Matt's life has changed and flipped completely. He's done being Daredevil as he blames himself for the death of his best friend. And Foggy's death has a major impact on Matt and Karen's relationship too. So much that Karen moves away to California. Matt even has a new partner named Kirsten McDuffie, and together they run a new law firm called Murdoch and McDuffie. Matt is really trying to turn a new page in life and change for the better. And ironically enough, so is Fisk. This shows us one of the main themes of the show. It's identity and just embracing who you are. For the first half of the season, we see Matt and Fisk really trying to change for the better, but the entire season is really just a journey of them realizing coherently together on the same path that they really can't change who they are, and nor should they. I mean, Matt really shouldn't. Fisk probably should change, but I don't think he can. Wilson Fisk is trying to stop being the Kingpin after the events of Hawkeye and Echo. Vanessa has been running the crime business while he's been gone, and instead he wants to run for mayor. At Bullseye's court sentencing, Matt and Karen finally reunite. Matt gets to take a stand and talks about Foggy. He knows that true justice won't be served because Foggy's gone forever and Dex still gets to breathe. The closest thing they would ever be to get to justice is by just being able to severely punish him. Matt doesn't believe in killing, but in the moment on that roof, he couldn't stop himself. Even though Bullseye survived, Matt feels that the sin is in the intention of his actions. This is so important because it helps us understand where all of our characters are and where Matt's head really is at. It also explains why Matt is technically right for leaving behind the Daredevil persona. Things get even more difficult for Matt when he learns that Fisk is running for mayor. Obviously, they've had their battles and wars in the past, but Matt is done with the violence and decides to pay him a visit so they can have a civil discussion at a diner. Matt and Fisk have a really cool and interesting sequence of dialogue at this diner. At the end of season 3, Fisk learns Matt's secret identity, and he goes to jail. With both of them being desperate to strike deals, Fisk decides he'll keep Matt's identity a secret, and in return, Matt will keep Vanessa safe while he's in prison. He also won't get her in prison and let her just be free. In this conversation, Matt questions Wilson's real intentions in this election.
I was raised to believe in grace. So if you say to me that you're a new man, I say fine. But you should know I was also raised to believe in retribution. So if you step out of line, I will be there.
And Fisk makes a threat back. He tells him that he's a changed man, but Matt doesn't really believe it. Though he doesn't buy what Fisk is selling, he's not completely worried because he thinks that with Fisk's track record, he won't actually be able to win this election. Matt is out on a date with Heather, entirely set up by Kirsten. This is where he learns that Fisk actually won the election. Matt obviously has a lot of feelings, He's upset, of course, but he's also very disappointed in the city. He never really thought the idea of Fisk winning was possible. He walks through the crowds of people in the city with polar opposite opinions. Matt is on the street in red city lighting, while Fisk is in the white lighting from atop a roof celebrating. Matt is in hell while Fisk is somehow in heaven. And this is just one of the first of many losses Matt is going to face throughout the season. Episode 2 is titled Optics. This episode, along with episode 3, are what I really think of as like the first main arc of the season. That arc being the lawyer side of Matthew Murdock and defending Hector Ayala, aka the White Tiger. This storyline starts off with Hector, who breaks up a fight between two undercover cops and a civilian. The cops begin beating on Hector too, and when he fights back, an officer falls into an oncoming train. When Hector's taken into custody, Matt overhears the police beating on him and trying to get him to plead guilty. Matt can't ignore this and decides to take on the case, even though Kirsten strongly is against it. This episode dives even further into how Matt and Fisk are both trying to change, but how even with all the effort to do so, there are still parts of them that never will be able to change. Matt is stubborn. He knows to do the right thing even when people tell him not to do it. He used to do it as Daredevil, and now he's still doing it, but just as his true self. Fisk is the same way. He used to be a lot more violent and intimidating, and trust me, he still is, but he goes about it a lot more discreetly. This episode is mainly titled Optics because we spend a decent amount of time with Fisk trying to fix his optics and gaining the trust of the New Yorkers who really didn't want to vote for him. He obviously has his followers, but there's still a lot of people against them. One of them which is Commissioner Gallo. He makes it very known and clear that he's against Kingpin and says that he's going to make sure that Fisk has the shortest term in history. Fisk doesn't take kindly to this and decides to blackmail him. Matt works with his retired police detective friend named Cherry. They learn that Hector's actually the White Tiger, and this changes the case entirely. They make things a hell of a lot more difficult for Matt, as Matt knows if the jury finds out that this will change the optics of the entire case, and everybody will be against Hector. Matt is right, and he decides to tell the judge that it would be unfair to Hector, and that him being the White Tiger has nothing to do with the case. Matt wants to win the case, and in order to do so, he needs to know all the ways he can lose it. He's pissed and feels like he's in a corner. Matt knows they're underdogs and that most of the people are against them, so he decides to go to the man Hector saved in the subway station. Matt wants to use him as a witness. Matt warns him that the corrupt cops are going to come for him and that he's going to protect them, but as long as he testifies for them. I want to pause here to explain why I think this show and the original show are so good. The writers and creators completely understand what the viewer wants to see, and that's the epic action and superhero stunts. But the characters are also just as cool and interesting and important. They at times make the lawyer part of the show just as interesting. Even though Matt isn't in the suit for a lot of the season, they still give us really fun fight sequences, and this is a perfect example. I mean, look, you can just tell how much Matt misses this, and I feel like we as an audience did too. Episode 3 is called The Hollow of His Hands. This episode shows us the actual court case. We start with hearing Officer Powell's side. This is, of course, filled with lies, and Matt can sense every last one of them. They allow Matt to ask Powell questions. He does so and even takes the opportunity to poke a little fun on the beating he gave him in the last episode.
Officer Powell, good morning. I'm told you have a black eye. I hope everything is okay.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
You know, there's this thing they say in boxing, the best cure for a black eye is fast hands.
Objection. Sustained. Come on, Mr. Murdoch.
As of now, it's just their word against Hector's. Powell said there were no witnesses, but Matt would beg to differ. That's where the man Hector saved comes in. They ask him where he was that night, but when push comes to shove, he lies too. He was going to tell the truth and help Hector, but he knew the spillovers it could have on him and his loved ones and his personal life. This shows us that the system can't be trusted and that sometimes the law fails. Matt actually had a quote about this in She-Hulk.
You see, the way I see it, Jen Walters can use the law to help people when society fails them. And She-Hulk can help people when the law fails them.
The case looks just about over and everything looks very bleak. Matt and his team try to figure out where they can go from here, but their options are very limited. Matt knows what to do, but it is a very tough decision to make. They go back to court, and this time they tell Hector to tell his side to the jury. Matt begins asking questions to Hector. They're not easy questions, it almost seems like he's flipping sides, but Matt knows exactly what he's doing. In a last-ditch effort, with his back against the wall, Matt reveals Hector's secret identity. This is a huge risk, but it was really the only way they could move out of the corner they were in. Now the trial goes a lot different. They begin asking people who have been saved by the White Tiger to tell their sides of their story. This plan actually works, and it turns out that the risky decision was actually genius. Hector is found not guilty on all charges and gets to walk away a free man. This shows Matt that he can do things the right way and beat the system no matter the odds, but these feelings are short-lived. Fisk and the corrupt officers in the city aren't happy with this. Hector returns as a White Tiger and is killed almost immediately. Matt thought he could do good without having to wear the mask, but this makes him really question everything. He's lost and doesn't know what to do. After all, Matt only took the case because he could hear the truth. If it was a regular person, Hector would have ended up like countless people before him. Matt could hear every lie told by every person in the courtroom, but no one else could. This takes us to episode 4, called Sic Semper Systema. This episode dives into Matt taking on a new case, and we also get to explore more of Wilson and Vanessa's therapy. We learn that Vanessa has had an affair with Wilson. A lot of people feel like Fisk is a whole new character within the MCU due to his extreme violence in the original show compared to him now, and relationship therapy and listening to kids singing in class. And I understand the criticism, but I think the whole purpose is to show how he's really trying to change. Matt's new case is with a client named Leroy. He's a bit of a jerk, but Matt still defends him. Leroy was arrested for stealing snacks from a bodega. This case isn't really important for the story, but it shows the themes of the system and how it's clearly broken. Leroy is super upset. He makes a really good point. He says they're willing to pay 5 times more to lock him up than they are to just feed him. And that's why he had to steal from the bodega. After this, Matt decides to go back to the scene of Hector's death to try finding out some more details. Matt uses his heightened senses and finds the bullet casing. He notices a Punisher skull on it and decides to pay his old friend a visit. Matt and Frank have a great exchange of dialogue here. It's not only one of my favorite scenes in the whole season, but I'd go as far to say it's one of my favorite scenes within the entire MCU. Frank gives Matt a much needed reality check. It's very similar to the conversation in season 2.
Yeah. I tell you what I think, Ray.
Tell me what you think.
I don't think you came here for my help. See, I think you want my permission. You want to get your hands on somebody, huh?
Frank brings up Foggy. He says this is all about him.
But yeah, no, sorry, buddy. Way off on that one.
You're so full of shit, counselor. So full of shit. You're guilty.
Excuse me?
Yeah. That guilt, that shame, that's my home, Red. And I can see it on you. I can smell it on you. It's all over you.
I'm gonna come back another day, Frank. Maybe catch you at a better time.
You lost him, didn't you, Red?
It's not about him.
Then say his name.
It's not about him. It's not about him.
Ah, for Christ's sake, say his name. Say his name, you coward! Say his name! It's not about him. You hate yourself. He's eating you up because you ain't done a goddamn thing about it.
God damn it,
He's really trying to give up the violence. But like we said before, some things never change. Frank tells him that was the first honest thing he's done since Foggy was killed. Frank really helps Matt here. It's tough love, but it's what Matt needed to hear. And this really kickstarts the return of their normal selves for Matt and Fisk both. Matt wakes up in the middle of the night and he looks at his suits. He knows he needs to return and that part of him wants to. Fisk goes to his secret basement and we learn that he's been keeping Adam, the man Vanessa had an affair with, locked up. The episode ends teasing a new villain called Muse. He's a sick serial killer who has been teased and seen throughout each of the episodes so far, and we'll talk more about him later. Episode 5 is called With Interest. This episode is kind of like the black sheep of the show. It starts with Matt at a bank, and he doesn't really have many connections to the other storyline. This portion of the season is where you start really feeling like the Frankenstein-ness of the show. If you guys have heard of what happened with like the writer strike and then how it was going to be 18 episodes and now it's 9. It all got changed and scrapped and reworked, and you can kind of feel it at some points of the season. These are the only weak parts of the show in my opinion, and that's why I'm so excited for season 2 because it's going to be a one storyline thing and written once, not rewritten a bunch of times and changed. So that's just some of the flaws with the season. But really, even the flaws are pretty still good moments for the character development. The bank gets robbed, and it's up to Matt to protect the hostage and stop the robbers. Matt clearly is put in a sticky situation here. He needs to utilize his skills and abilities to protect himself and everyone inside, but he also can't expose his identity. We get to see a lot of cool action and heart-racing moments from this. We don't really see any of Fisk in this episode, but we learn that the group of men that are behind this failed heist are actually his. Okay, so we're going to move on to episode 6 now. Episode 6 is one of my favorite episodes in the show. It's called Excessive Force, and this episode starts off with Matt praying. We assume he doesn't really go to church anymore after the attempted murder of Poindexter, which makes sense. He thinks of all the violence he's unleashed over the last couple days, weeks, and months, and just asks for forgiveness for all of it, basically. Luke is threatening Fisk, but this argument gets interrupted by a man who tells him about Muse. Angela comes into Matt and Kirsten's law firm and informs Matt of the same thing. She thinks Hector's murder was connected to these missing people and that Muse is actually kidnapping and killing them. In the mayor's office, Fisk and his crew talk about the situation. They estimate that there's at least 60 victims through all of Muse's murals, and Fisk begins to start losing it. He employs a task force. The rules, or more so the lack of rules that they have, are ridiculous. It's scary, but it's very similar to some things that we can see in today's world. Cherry informs Matt the same thing, but makes him promise not to get involved and just to let the police handle it. Matt does really try, but when Angela goes down there into the tunnels to look for Muse and is on her own, Matt can't sit it out any longer. He calls the police to try saving her, but
Fuck it.
Daredevil finally returns, and we get to see an awesome and brutal fight sequence between him and Muse. Daredevil mops the floor with him, but he's still a little rusty. While this is happening, Fisk has been pushed to his limit too. He decides to go beat on Adam some more, but this time he wants to let him fight back. He gives him an axe. Just like Matt, Fisk has missed the violence and wants to return to his old ways. This is the path and journey both of them have been set on throughout the season so far. And going to the final stretch, we finally have them both to their normal self. These fights end with Daredevil almost killing Muse, but ultimately remembering their prayer from the beginning of the episode and deciding to let Muse get away and save Angela instead. Episode 7 is titled Art for Art's Sake. The day following Daredevil's rescue, Fisk is informed of his return. Of course, he's pretty upset about it. After all, Daredevil did ruin everything for him, and he got him put in jail multiple times. He also stopped nearly all of his illegal operations. And Fisk explains this to Buck. Matt speaks with Angela, who's hospitalized. She gives him a lot of helpful clues and details. While this is going on, Bastion and Heather have a therapy session. The police are in Muse's lair, trying to gather intel on where his next attack will be. They learn that Bastion is Muse, and when Daredevil sneaks in, he learns that the next target is none other than Heather. Muse attacks Heather, and he gets her tied up and begins draining her blood. Thankfully, Daredevil arrives just in the nick of time, and they get into a violent fight, and they exchange brutal blows. But the fight is ended when Heather grabs a gun and shoots Muse, killing him right before she passes out. Matt manages to escape just before Fisk's anti-vigilante task force comes in and takes credit for the kill. Episode 8 is titled Isle of Joy. This is probably my favorite or second favorite episode of the whole season. We start things off with Bullseye, who's in prison. Specifically, he's in a more secure part of the prison since he's so dangerous with his special skills and abilities. Unfortunately, things take a swift turn when Mayor Fisk has him moved down into Gen Pop. After injuries in the last episode, Matt and Heather sit in his apartment, discussing the attack. This quickly sparks up a heated argument because Heather thinks Daredevil and Muse are similar and comparable. Matt strongly disagrees. After all, Daredevil saved her from Muse, who was trying to kill her. But the way Heather sees it is she saved herself, and both of them were wearing masks, so she doesn't know either one of their intentions. The argument is paused when they hear a knock at the door. Matt goes to answer it and is surprised to see Buck, who's there to give Heather an invitation to Fisk's inaugural ball. This makes the argument even more heated and makes Matt question things. How does Heather know Fisk and Buck? How did they know to find her in Matt's apartment? Why would she even think about going or even letting Fisk into her life with how dangerous he is? Heather suggests that Matt should go with her if he's really seriously that worried. While all this is happening, Fisk tells Vanessa about him keeping Adam this whole time and beating on him. He explains why he's been doing it and tells her that he can't help it. To solve this problem, Vanessa just kills Adam for him, and it seems like the two of them are finally back on good terms again and are back to their old selves. Kirsten informs Matt of Fisk moving Poindexter into Gen Pop and tells him that he's requesting to speak to him. Matt is a bit confused. He's extremely stressed out. He's also extremely valid for feeling this way. He recaps everything, and it's hard to say that we wouldn't feel the same way in his situation.
Matt.
You know, we put Poindexter away and it changes nothing. All right? We defend Hector Ayala and he's still murdered. Probably by the same cops who were out there assaulting citizens, by the way. All right? Leroy Bradford goes away for eating a box of caramel corn. Heather's assaulted by Muse, and she thinks Fisk is right. And now this asshole, this privileged sociopath can get away with ripping off teachers. We're not serving justice here, you know? We're babysitting chaos.
He decides to step out and take a break from everything. He ends up back at Josie's bar. It's the first time back since Foggy's death that night. They drink O'Melvinies, which was Foggy's drink that night. The thing is, Foggy only drank this drink on special occasions, like when he and Matt would win a case. This is where Matt figures everything out. Foggy knew he was going to win the case, but he was silenced before he could. His death wasn't an accident, it was planned. This is where Matt decides to pay Dex a visit. He asks tons of questions to get answers behind Foggy's death. Unfortunately, Dex isn't going to tell him anything until Matt gets him out of jail. But Matt isn't going to do that. Matt hates him for what he did, and he's extremely frustrated. He starts slamming Dex's face into the table, knocking out his tooth. Poindexter later uses his tooth as a weapon and manages to escape the entire prison and begin his path for revenge. At Fisk's ball, we see a lot of different character interactions. The main three important ones: the anti-vigilante task force abusing their power on a reporter who takes a picture of Fisk. Their beating gets interrupted by Chief Gallo. He tries doing the right thing, but when he interferes, the rest of the task force comes in and corner him. The next interaction is between Gallo and BB Urich. He informs her of Fisk being the main suspect in her Uncle Ben's death. He also tells her that he has tabs and info on all officers on Fisk's task force, and this will probably play a pivotal role in their demise. Then the last interaction is a very neatly done dance sequence where Matt arrives at the ball and is pissed since he thinks Fisk was behind Foggy's death. He goes back and forth with Heather, explaining that Fisk and Vanessa are dangerous and that she needs to leave. Matt finds Fisk and gets ready to confront him, but before he can, Fisk and Vanessa break out into a dance. They get their moment, but as soon as the other couples jump in, Matt and Heather take their opportunity. Matt and Fisk converse, and Matt learns that Fisk really wasn't behind Foggy's death. It was Vanessa who was in charge while he was away. She had the hit placed on him, and Matt bumps into them so they can switch dance partners. Matt is visibly upset and threatens Vanessa. They bicker back and forth, but Matt stops when he hears a weapon being loaded from above on the top balcony. It's Bullseye, who's escaped from prison and has arrived at the ball to get his revenge on Fisk. He takes a shot, and of course, he's right on target. The only problem is Matt decides to jump in front of the bullet before it can kill Fisk. And this is how the episode comes to a close. The final episode in the season is called Straight to Hell. And we start things off a year ago. Vanessa is talking to Dex, and she got him out of prison. All she needs from him now in return is for him to kill Benny and his lawyer Foggy Nelson. In the present day, Matt is in the hospital recovering after the shot through his shoulder. Kirsten and Heather check on him, but he mistakes Heather for Karen. As this is happening, Fisk demands his task force to go out and take down all the vigilantes. He shut down the city and keeps everyone inside. Fisk also turns the power off in the city and sends Buck to kill Matt in the hospital. Matt senses it beforehand and manages to escape back to his apartment before Buck can secure the kill. Matt gets back to his apartment and waits there, but he's surprised by Punisher. It's not long until the task force arrives, but Daredevil and Punisher are ready. We get to see one of the most epic and intense action sequences in all the 4 seasons of the show. It's violent and brutal and pulls no punches. Frank is killing all of them in his old-fashioned way, but Matt is making sure to do his work in a non-lethal way. The fight ends with the two of them once again arguing over their methods and ideologies, and honestly, this never gets old. Matt stops the argument when he notices the task force getting ready to bomb the apartment. The duo escapes and jumps off the balcony and make their way down onto the street where they're found by Karen Page. They return to Frank's hideout and patch up all their wounds. Matt informs Karen of Vanessa's hired hit on Foggy, and they decide to leave Frank to go find all of Foggy's old evidence for his case. The city is tearing itself apart, and Frank decides to go out and try putting a stop to some of the chaos. He's attacked by an army of Fisk's task force, and he takes out the majority of them in an epic fight sequence. But he's severely outnumbered and ends up getting pinned down and knocked out. The task force actually tries recruiting him and tells him that they look up to him. This makes the Punisher realize that his skull symbol really is being used for the wrong reasons. He declines their offer and basically explains to them why he actually does what he does, and that he actually has trauma. They're just doing it because they're jerks and think that they're in the right, but they have no morals. Frank never actually really wants to do what he does. He just knows that it needs to be done and thinks it needs to be done, and no other hero really does it in the Marvel Universe, so that's why Frank does it his way. So that's also one of the main themes of the show, and I think it's really good for today's age, and I think it really should be a sign for people to take away from it. They beat on Frank and try getting him to join the task force, and simultaneously the other members, along with Fisk, kill Gala. Matt and Karen make their way to Red Hook, planning to attack, but Karen warns Matt if they do, he'll just die. They ultimately decide to wait and get back. They come to the conclusion that they're going to need an army of their own. The next morning, the power turns back on, and Fisk makes a statement. New York goes into martial law, they set a curfew, and they make vigilantism illegal. The heroes lost. Matt hides out in Josie's bar with Karen and his few allies. He monologues. He talks about how he felt when God took his eyesight. He felt like God wanted him to do what he was doing. But when he threw Dex off that rooftop that night, he crossed the line. He couldn't believe that he was still doing it for the right reasons. Karen explains to him that he's still doing it for the right reasons and that he's just being too hard on himself. This is why I love this season so much. It does a great job of tearing Matt down, nearly as much as Defenders and Daredevil Season 3 did. I think that's why we love that season so much. For me, Season 3 is my favorite season, and I think that's the general consistency for most fans. Season 3 is followed by Season 1, and then Born Again, and then Season 2, for me at least. I think each and every season of this show is great, and I wouldn't really be mad at any ordering or ranking. That's just how good of a show I think this really is. Back to the point, Season 3 tore Matt down so much, and then it built him back up throughout the season, and I think we all love it for that. But all that was more so in a physical way. I mean, the roof fell on Matt at the end of Defenders, and he was basically lost all his touch and senses, right? And throughout the season, Matt continues to lose fights and has to build himself up physically throughout everything. And this season does the same thing, but it's more so on a mental aspect too. Each episode feels like Matt loses something or someone. Even when he wins, he loses. A lot of it is mental. He doesn't feel like he deserves to be Daredevil, but he knows that he has to and that the city needs him now more than ever. Vincent D'Onofrio just actually said pretty recently that Season 2 of Born Again is going to have a moment that rivals the iconic I Beat You moment at the end of Season 3. And I honestly believe him. I really can't wait to see it, and I hope that it does rival it, because unlike Season 3, the difference here is this is a multi-seasonal arc. Matt has been extremely low throughout this, and we know a big win is coming eventually, and hopefully with that win, it comes in like the help of the Street Tier Defenders all united and reunited to take down the Kingpin. I think that's probably what it's going to take, but Matt does deserve a win, and we know he will win, and I think it's going to be a more permanent win and feel it all the better because of the journey of him losing so much. So that's what I think about the show. That's why I love it, and I feel like it's misunderstood. But that's a recap, review, and just a general sum up of the show and why I still love it just as much as the original. But with all that being said, thank you so much for watching, and peace out.